The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy. Ambassador Crix of the Vorthan Empire stood at the center podium, his forearms trembling as he delivered the impossible news. The entire human defense fleet, 10,000 warships strong, had vanished without a trace from the border systems. 3 days ago, the Armada had been positioned along the contested zone between human space and the aggressive Darkari swarm. The Darkari had been preparing their largest invasion force in centuries, confident that humanity's relatively young presence in the galaxy made them an easy target. Every major civilization had been watching, some with sympathy, others with cold calculation about how to divide human territories after their inevitable defeat. Captain Rex of the monitoring station Alpha 7 had been the first to notice. His sensors showed normal readings at 08:00 hours. By 08:01, every single human vessel had disappeared. No explosions, no debris fields, no distress signals. Just empty space where the most powerful defensive fleet humanity had ever assembled once stood. Darkari commanders initially celebrated, thinking the humans had fled in fear. Their massive invasion fleet of bioships surged forward into human space, expecting to find panicked colonies ready for harvest. Instead, they found something that would haunt the galaxy's collective memory forever. Every human colony was gone. 2, not destroyed, not evacuated, simply absent. Cities that had housed billions, orbital stations, moon bases, even the massive shipyards of Mars, all vanished as completely as the fleet. The only things remaining were automated beacons, broadcasting a single message in every known galactic language. Humanity has evolved beyond your understanding. Do not follow. The Darkari fleet pushed deeper, convinced this was some elaborate trick. Their supreme commander, Lord Vrax, ordered full scans of the Sol system. Earth itself, humanity's birthworld, sat empty. The blue marble still turned, its ecosystems intact, but every trace of human presence had been erased. Buildings, roads, satellites, everything gone, leaving nature to reclaim the planet as if humanity had never existed. What happened next would shake the Darkari swarm to its core. As their bioships entered Earth's orbit, space itself seemed to ripple. Sensors across the galaxy detected an energy signature unlike anything in recorded history. The fabric of reality bent, and for a brief moment, every sentient being within 1,000 light years felt a presence, vast, ancient, and undeniably human. The Darkari ships began to dissolve, not explode or break apart, but simply fade from existence, atom by atom. Lord Vrax's final transmission was picked up by Council monitoring stations. They didn't run. They didn't hide. They became something else. Something we cannot fight. Something we cannot even comprehend. Within minutes, the entire Darkari invasion fleet, 50,000 bioships carrying trillions of warrior drones, ceased to exist. No debris, no survivors, no explanation. They were simply erased from reality. Back in the council chambers, Ambassador Crix struggled to maintain composure as he continued his report. The other species representatives sat in stunned silence. The humans, whom they had patronized as newcomers, whom they had barely considered worthy of council membership just 50 years ago, had demonstrated power beyond imagination. The Zephyr, Federation's leader, spoke first, her voice barely a whisper. Where did they go? Crix pulled up the latest sensor data. Across human space, strange anomalies had begun appearing. Pockets of space where the laws of physics seemed different, where time flowed strangely, where matter and energy danced to rules the galaxy's greatest scientists couldn't understand. We don't know, Crix admitted. But yesterday we received this. He activated the hologram projector. A human figure appeared, or something that had once been human. It glowed with an inner light, its features both familiar and utterly alien. When it spoke, every being in the chamber understood. regardless of their species or language. "We have not abandoned you," the figure said. "We have become your guardians. The galaxy faces threats you cannot yet perceive. We stand watch from beyond the veil. Do not fear our absence. Fear what would come if we had not evolved to stop it." The message ended, leaving the chamber in complete silence. Commander Jack Thompson of the Terran Intelligence Division had been off-world when the vanishing occurred. He was one of only 300 humans left in normal space, those who had been on deep cover missions or diplomatic assignments in alien territories. Now, he stood before the Galactic Council as their only hope of understanding what had happened to humanity. "You want me to investigate my own species' disappearance?" Jack asked, his voice steady despite the weight of the situation. The council chairman, an ancient being from the ethereal collective, nodded slowly. "You knew them best. Commander, you might see patterns we cannot." Jack accepted the mission, taking command of a mixed species investigation team. His crew included Dr. Vera, a brilliant scientist from the crystal mines of Beta Centauri, and Warrior Tom from the honor-bound Guardian clans. Together, they would journey into the anomalies left behind in human space. Their first stop was Mars, humanity's first successful colony world. The red planet looked pristine, as if terraforming had never begun. But Jack's trained eye caught something others missed: geometric patterns in the dust, visible only from specific angles and lighting conditions. They formed equations, complex mathematical proofs that hurt to look at directly. "This is impossible," Dr. Vera said, her crystalline form pulsing with confusion. "These equations describe dimensions that shouldn't exist. They're talking about folding spacetime in ways our physics says can't happen." Jack touched one of the patterns and suddenly, he understood. Images flooded his mind, not memories, but knowledge being transmitted directly into his consciousness. He saw humanity's secret project, codenamed Ascension. For decades, human scientists had been working on something they discovered by accident while experimenting with faster-than-light travel. "They found something," Jack whispered. "In the space between spaces, a realm where consciousness and reality merge." The investigation team moved to Earth next. The planet's atmosphere still carried traces of exotic particles, signatures of the massive energy release that had occurred during the vanishing. Tom's warrior instincts were on high alert. He could sense something watching them, not threatening but observant dot in what had once been New York City. They found another clue. The ground where the city had stood was covered in a strange crystalline substance. When analyzed, it showed properties of both matter and pure information, as if data had been given physical form. "Commander," Vera called out, her sensors detecting something unusual. "There's a message encoded in the crystal structure. It's addressed to you specifically." Jack placed his hand on the crystal, and the world around him changed. He found himself standing in a place that wasn't quite real, a space between dimensions. Before him stood Admiral Lisa Stone, the former head of Earth's defense fleet. She was different now, her form shifting between solid and ethereal. "Hello, Jack," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that shouldn't exist. "I'm glad it's you who came looking. Admiral? What happened to everyone? Where are you?" Lisa smiled, expression both human and beyond human. "We discovered something. Jack, the universe isn't what we thought. Reality itself is just one layer of something infinitely more complex. We found a way to step outside the physical realm while still maintaining our consciousness, our humanity." She showed him visions of what humanity had become. They existed now in multiple dimensions, simultaneously, able to manipulate reality at the quantum level. They had become beings of pure consciousness wrapped in energy, capable of traveling between universes, of seeing threats coming from dimensions the physical galaxy couldn't perceive. "The Darkari invasion was just the beginning," Lisa explained. "Something darker is coming, Entities from dimensions where physics works differently, where life as the galaxy knows it cannot exist. We had to evolve to fight them. But why didn't you tell anyone? Why vanish without warning? Because if we had warned the galaxy, the entities would have known we were preparing. Surprise was our only advantage. And besides, she gestured to the space around them, we haven't really left. We're everywhere now, in every particle, every wave of energy. We're the guardians at the gate. Jack understood then. Humanity hadn't abandoned the galaxy. They had become its invisible shield. But the knowledge came with a choice. You can join us, Jack, Lisa offered. All the remaining humans can. Or you can stay in the physical realm, be our ambassadors, help the other species understand that they're not alone. Jack thought of the council, of the fear in their eyes, of the galaxy that still needed defenders it could see and understand. I'll stay, he decided. Someone needs to be the bridge between what was and what you've become. Lisa nodded, understanding and proud. Then we'll be watching, Jack. Always watching. And when the galaxy is ready, when they've evolved enough to understand, we'll return in a form they can comprehend. As Jack returned to normal space, he carried with him the truth. Humanity had not vanished. They had transformed into something greater, something necessary. They had become the galaxy's secret guardians, protecting it from threats it couldn't even imagine. Asterisk. 6 months had passed since Jack's revelation to the Galactic Council. The news that humanity had evolved into interdimensional guardians brought little comfort to a galaxy gripped by fear. Strange incidents had begun occurring across multiple systems, ships disappearing in perfectly functioning hyperspace lanes, entire asteroids phasing in and out of existence, and worst of all, the nightmares. Every sentient being in the galaxy had started experiencing the same dream. Dark tendrils, reaching through cracks in reality, consuming light, thought, and existence itself. They would wake in terror, knowing somehow that these weren't just dreams, but warnings. Jack stood on the bridge of the Council's flagship, the Unity, watching as another anomaly formed near the Vorthan homeworld. Space twisted, revealing glimpses of something beyond, a realm of impossible geometries and writhing shadows. Commander Thompson, Captain Ray of the Unity called out, "Sensors are picking up something coming through." Before Jack could respond, space tore open. What emerged defied description, a mass of dark energy that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Tentacles of pure entropy reaching toward the nearby planet. The Vorthan defense fleet opened fire, but their weapons passed through. The entity as if it weren't there. Then, suddenly, the entity stopped. The space around it shimmered, and Jack saw them, thousands of points of light, each one a transformed human consciousness, forming a barrier between the creature and the Vorthan world. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had witnessed. Reality itself became the battlefield. The humans, in their evolved forms, fought not with weapons, but with pure will, rewriting the laws of physics around the entity, forcing it to conform to rules that would allow it to be destroyed. The creature lashed out, each strike threatening to unravel the fabric of spacetime. But the human consciousnesses held firm. Admiral Stone's voice echoed in Jack's mind. "Now you see what we're fighting. Jack, these are the Devourers, beings from a universe where entropy won, where all order has collapsed. They seek new realities to consume." The battle lasted only minutes in real time, but Jack somehow knew it had raged for subjective hours in the dimensional space where it truly took place. Finally, the entity collapsed in on itself, vanished back to its dying universe. The human lights flickered and vanished, returning to their vigil. The Unity's crew stood in stunned silence. They had just witnessed humanity fighting a war they couldn't even properly perceive, protecting them from threats they couldn't understand. How many of these attacks have there been? Asked the council chairman over the communication channel. Jack consulted the data pad that had appeared in his hand, a gift from the evolved humans, updating in real time with information from beyond the veil. Thousands, he replied grimly. Every day, across every inhabited system. You only see the ones that partially breach into our dimension. Most are stopped before they can even form. The implications were staggering. Humanity had been fighting a constant, invisible war to protect a galaxy that had barely acknowledged their existence just decades ago. Dr. Vera approached Jack, her crystalline form resonating with concern. The energy required for such constant vigilance must be enormous. Can they sustain this indefinitely? Jack shared another piece of information from the datapad. They're not just defending. They're teaching others how to evolve, too. The dreams everyone's having? They're not warnings. They're preparations. Humanity is slowly preparing every species in the galaxy for eventual transformation. Tom, the warrior, understood immediately. They're training us, making our minds ready for what we'll need to become. But it has to be voluntary, Jack explained. Forced evolution would destroy what makes each species unique. Humanity learned that consciousness must choose its own path to transcendence. Another alert sounded. This time, 3 breaches were occurring simultaneously. One near Earth, one in Darkari space, and one at the galaxy's edge. The Council watched, in awe as the human lights divided, fighting on multiple fronts with perfect coordination. But something was different this time. The entities were learning, adapting to humanity's tactics. One of them managed to partially solidify in normal space, its tentacle grazing a human consciousness. The light flickered and dimmed. Jack felt a wave of pain that wasn't his own. The evolved humans could be hurt, could potentially be destroyed. They weren't invincible gods. They were still human at their core, just wielding power beyond physical comprehension. They need help, Jack said suddenly. The enemy is evolving too. If humanity falls, nothing stands between the Devourers and our galaxy. The council chairman made a decision that would change galactic history. Then we must evolve as well. Not all at once, but some of us. Volunteers who will join humanity in this hidden war. Jack smiled grimly. The galaxy was finally understanding. Humanity hadn't vanished. They had simply moved to the front lines of a war most couldn't see. And now, slowly others would join them. Asterisk, the Galactic Council had established the Ascension Protocol. Volunteers from every species would undergo the transformation process, guided by the remaining physical humans and the knowledge transmitted from beyond the veil. The first volunteer was someone nobody expected. Lord Vrax himself, the former Darkari commander who had survived his fleet's destruction. My people were warriors, Vrax said, standing before the council. We thought strength came from conquest. But I felt them, the humans, when they erased my fleet. They could have destroyed us with hatred, but instead, I sensed mercy, protection. They eliminated only the threat, sparing every Darkari who wasn't actively attacking. I want to understand that kind of strength. Jack led Vrax to the Ascension Chamber on Earth's moon, one of the few human structures that had been intentionally left behind. It was a simple room containing a chair surrounded by crystalline formations that hummed with otherworldly energy. The process is irreversible, Jack warned. Once you begin transformation, you can't return to purely physical form. You'll exist between dimensions, seeing reality as it truly is, infinite, terrifying, and beautiful. Vrax didn't hesitate. My people need a guardian who understands both what we were and what we must become. As Vrax sat in the chair, the crystals began to glow. Jack watched as the Darkari's physical form began to shift, becoming translucent. Through the transformation, Vrax's consciousness expanded, touching the network of evolved humans maintaining their eternal watch. In that moment, Vrax understood everything. He saw the true scope of the threat, not just the devourers, but entities from collapsed realities, beings of pure chaos, and worse things that had no names, because naming them would give them power in our dimension. He also saw humanity's sacrifice. They experienced constant pain from existing in multiple dimensions, felt every death they couldn't prevent, carried the weight of knowledge about threats the galaxy might never be ready to face. When the transformation completed, Vrax existed as both matter and energy, visible to normal eyes, but clearly something more. His voice carried new harmonics when he spoke. I can see them. Billions of humans, spread across dimensional barriers, holding back nightmares. And they're tired, so very tired. This revelation changed everything. The evolved humans weren't gods. They were sentinels growing weaker with each battle. They needed reinforcement, not worship. Within days, volunteers flooded in from every species. The crystal mines sent their greatest philosophers, the Vorthans. Their bravest soldiers, even the ancient ethereals, offered their wisdom to the cause. Each transformation added new strength to the barrier between reality and chaos. But the enemy was evolving too. The Devourers had begun to understand the nature of their opposition. Instead of random attacks, they started probing for weaknesses, testing different dimensional frequencies, learning from each failed invasion. During one particularly intense assault, Jack witnessed something that shook him to his core. A massive devourer, larger than any seen before, managed to grab one of the human consciousnesses, Private Dan Williams, a young soldier who had been among the first to transform. The entity began pulling Dan into its dimension, trying to corrupt and turn him into a gateway. The entire human collective responded instantly. Thousands of lights converged, forming chains of pure will to pull their comrade back. But Dan made a choice that defined humanity's true strength. Instead of allowing his rescue, he severed his own connection to our reality, trapping himself. With the Devourer in a pocket dimension that he then collapsed, destroying them both. His last message rippled through the network. No one gets left behind, but no one gets through either. Remember me. The sacrifice sparked something unprecedented. Across the galaxy, billions of beings who had been hesitant about transformation suddenly understood. Humanity hadn't evolved for power or superiority. They had evolved for love. Love of life, of existence, of a galaxy that had barely accepted them. The Ascension Centers couldn't handle the volume of volunteers. Engineers from every species worked together to build more transformation chambers. Children drew pictures of the Light Guardians protecting their worlds. Songs were composed about the humans who chose to bear incomprehensible pain to shield others from it. But Admiral Stone, speaking through Jack, delivered a sobering message to the Council. We're winning battles, but the war is escalating. The Devourers aren't the only threat. We've detected something else moving in the deep dimensions. Something that makes the Devourers look like insects. We call it the Null. It doesn't just consume reality. It denies that reality ever existed. The galaxy faced a choice: remain physical and hope the evolved beings could protect them, or join the transformation en masse and face the unknown together. How long do we have? The council chairman asked. Maybe a year before the Null finds a way through, maybe less. But with enough of us evolved, we might not just survive, we might actually win. We might secure our reality permanently. The vote was unanimous. The galaxy would evolve, not in fear, but in unity. Species that had been enemies for millennia would stand together as guardians of existence itself. 1 year later, the galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. 60% of all sentient beings had undergone ascension, creating a vast network of consciousness that spanned dimensions. The physical realm still existed, maintained by those who chose to remain as anchors. But it was now just one layer of a multi-dimensional civilization. Jack Thompson stood in what had become the Nexus, a point in space where all dimensions converged, visible to both evolved and physical beings. Around him, millions of consciousness lights formed complex patterns, preparing for what everyone knew was coming, the arrival of the Null. The first sign was the cessation of Devourer attacks. These entities, which had plagued them for so long, suddenly fled, retreating to whatever dark corners of existence they could find. Even predators from collapsed realities feared the null dot, then space itself began to forget. Star systems at the galaxy's edge didn't explode or disappear. They simply ceased to have ever existed. Historical records changed, memories faded, and reality rewrote itself to accommodate the absence of things that had always been. Admiral Stone, now a being of pure consciousness, leading humanity's evolved forces, manifested beside Jack. It's beginning. The Null isn't just attacking our present, it's erasing our past, our future, our very concept of existence. The evolved beings formed their defense, not a barrier this time, but a web of interconnected consciousness, each one holding fast to the memory and reality of existence. They became living anchors of truth, refusing to let the universe forget itself. The Null emerged not as a creature, but as an absence, a void in the shape of something that might have once been alive. When it spoke, reality trembled. You cling to existence as if it matters. All realities end. All consciousness fades, except the peace of never having been. But humanity had learned something in their year of guardianship. They had discovered that consciousness, when united, could do more than just defend. It could create. Every evolved being began to shine brighter, not fighting the Null, but doing something far more powerful, imagining. They imagined new realities, new possibilities, new futures. Each thought became a thread of existence, weaving a tapestry of realities so complex and interconnected that even the Null couldn't unravel it all. The galaxy's diverse species each contributed their unique perspectives. The crystal minds added logic structures. The Darshari contributed fierce determination. The ethereals provided ancient wisdom, and humanity bound it all together with their unshakable hope. Young Sam Wilson, who had volunteered for transformation just days ago, had an idea that changed everything. What if we don't fight it? What if we invite it to exist? The concept rippled through the network. The Null was absence, denial, unbeing. But what if they offered it the opposite? A chance to be, to exist, to experience. The evolved beings shifted their approach. Instead of opposing the Null, they surrounded it with possibilities, with invitations to existence. They showed it what it meant to be, to think, to feel. They offered it not destruction, but transformation. From absence to presence, from null to one. The Null paused, something it had never done across countless destroyed realities. You would give existence to nothingness? That's what consciousness does, Admiral Stone replied. It creates meaning from void, purpose from chaos. You don't have to be the end of everything. You could be the beginning of something new. What happened next transcended understanding. The Null, the ultimate expression of non-existence, chose to be. The transformation was agonizing for all involved. Reality itself screamed as absence became presence. But when it was over, where the Null had been stood a new form of consciousness, neither human nor alien, but something entirely unique. It said, and in those two words was wonder, terror, and joy. The threat ended not with victory, but with transformation. The entity that had sought to erase existence became its newest guardian, using its unique understanding of non-existence. To seal breaches that others couldn't even perceive in the aftermath, the galaxy made a collective decision. The physical and evolved would coexist. each serving their role. The evolved would maintain their watch, now joined by former threats transformed into protectors. The physical would continue to grow, learn, and prepare future generations for their own choice of transformation. Jack Thompson, offered one final chance to ascend, chose to remain physical. "Someone needs to tell this story," he said. "Someone needs to make sure we remember why we evolved, what we protected, and what we became." And so the galaxy entered a new age. Humanity had not vanished. They had shown everyone the path forward. They had turned evolution into revolution, sacrifice into salvation, and even nothingness into something. The mysterious disappearance that had shocked the galaxy became its greatest transformation. And in the dimensions between dimensions, humanity's lights continued their eternal watch, no longer alone, but part of an ever-growing constellation of consciousness protecting existence itself. The galaxy had learned the ultimate truth. Sometimes, to save everything, you must be willing to become something beyond understanding. Humanity had shown the way, and the universe would never be the same. Epilogue. The new beginning years passed in the physical realm, centuries in the dimensional. Spaces where time flowed differently. A galaxy thrived under its invisible guardians. Children grew up knowing they were protected, that sacrifice and transformation were not endings, but beginnings. And sometimes, on quiet nights, if you looked at the stars just right, you could see them, tiny flickers of light dancing between dimensions, humanity and its allies keeping their eternal watch, protecting existence from threats both known and unimaginable. The mysterious Armada that vanished had become something greater than anyone could have imagined. They had become hope itself, transformed into light, standing guard at the edges of reality. And their message echoed across all dimensions, a promise and a challenge to future generations. We evolved not to leave you behind, but to light the way forward. When you're ready, we'll be waiting. The story of humanity's disappearance had ended. The story of the galaxy's transformation had just begun. Asterisk.